Hello everybody, welcome. I'm No02. This is going to be the very nerdy video. We're going to be getting more in depth into Back 4 Blood than we probably need to be. This is about the revisiting the idea, the fundamentals, the principles of building a deck in this video game that is Back 4 Blood. So hello, I'm No02. I made a video earlier and talked about some ideas and concepts, and some of those ideas and concepts still true. But between that video and now, I have like 400 plus more hours in Back 4 Blood than I did before. And also, too, just want to re-explain things from a different perspective because I've sort of realized that at one point I identified the card types as different than this because we look at this and we go, look at the card types. Really, it doesn't help us a whole lot. Kind of vague. And even the card types that I explained before, still kind of vague. So I want to re-explain things in a way that I think is going to be way more digestible, way more quantifiable as far as helping you to understand how you can look at the cards, how you can build your own deck, how you can get your own creative juices flowing and things like that. If you don't want to watch this, what's probably going to be a very long video, check the timestamps for the recap at the end. Other than that, grab a drink, sit down, relax. You deserve it. You deserve to relax. And thank you for joining me here, right? So if you haven't watched the other video, or want to be reminded, here are the original 4 card types that I identified here. We have resource generation, like Hazard Pay, Vanguard, Inspiring Sacrifice, Highwayman, right? These are cards that when you shoot your gun or do a thing, a resource of some kind is generated. And our resources are copper, health, stamina, bullets, and our inventory. So resource generation are cards that generate more of those resources. We have a resource quantity. And different from resource generation, this is like we have more stamina. We have extra health, right? Right, we got vitamins, plus 15 health, right? We have more of a resource. More of that resource, ammo, mule, things like that. We can carry more bullets. Resource quantity. Another thing, the next one is resource quality here. We have glass cannon, where this is about having more resources, but it's about getting more value out of the resources that we already have. So like glass cannon, when we shoot our bullet, it does more damage. The bullets have higher quality, right? We had a healing efficiency. Our medkits, the resource that is the medkit, heals for more HP. And things like that, resource quality. Movement speed is another one where the resource is stamina, but we can run further and get away from things faster if we have more movement speed. So movement speed is the resource quality for stamina, things like that. And the final thing we have is quality of life cards. These are cards that aren't boosting, or these cards aren't generating anything. They're not boosting our quantity or increasing our quality. These cards make it easier for us to use our resources. It makes it more convenient to use the things that we have at our disposal. And cold brew coffee is a great example because it has literally all of them. Reload speed, aim speed, weapon swap speed, use speed, right? There's a quality of life card. Now I felt really nice and clever in, my ability to summarize and break down, to see the fabrics of space and time around Back 4 Blood and to come up with these card types, right? Resource generation, quality, quantity, and quality of life. But then I just sort of like, what do you do with this? Like, where do you go from here? How do you build a deck? Oh, every deck needs at least one of the 4 types or whatever, right? Like, let's quantify this in a more productive way here for ourselves. What are the problems that Back 4 Blood presents to us? Because the point of the deck is to help us solve problems that are in our way until we get to the next safe room, right? That's the point. We're solving problems until we get to the next safe room. The problems that we're going to encounter that get us killed, it's the Horde, right? You can see here it's the Horde, mutation / bosses, attrition, objectives / crescendo events, right? Those are the 4 main problems that Back 4 Blood is presenting to us. The horde is obvious. It's when a swarm of zombies show up and you need to either kill them before they swarm all over you or get inside a room and funnel them and then deal with them and things like that. Mutations and bosses are, we all know, and they have lots of health, and we need to figure out how to kill them quickly enough before they get on top of us, especially if we're holding out in a room. The tall boy shows up. It can be a game ender. It can be a run killer. If you don't have enough damage to kill the tall boy from the threshold of the doorway in the room that you're in, you know, whatever, the 10 meters between you and that tall boy. Attrition is sort of the general, like, as you're playing, you might make a mistake and get hit by a stinger or a random zombie. A tall boy shows up, you burn a grenade. Over the course of a mission, you're going to be getting whittled away. Right? The PvE is about this game of attrition against you, where the game is trying to use up all your resources. When you run out of grenades, all of a sudden tall boys show up and you don't have a solution anymore. Now you're taking hits to your health, someone goes down, you have to pick them back up, blah blah blah, right? So attrition is us having to burn our resources slowly over time, whether it's our health or grenades or medkits or whatever. Now, the objectives and crescendo events are these sort of mechanical ways that the game forces us to act in a way that we maybe wouldn't otherwise. For instance, like we need lots of U speed to beat Rolling Thunder. The problem that we have is this field cannon where we need to interact with it in a way that we don't interact with anything else, right? You don't interact with a field cannon the same way you do with a zombie, right? Right? At the same time, though, crescendo events, which is a term that came from Left 4 Dead, is basically an endless horde. Endless horde, right? So the crossing, great example of objectives crescendo event where we need to interact with the game in a way that we're typically not used to. We need to run and only run and get all the way to the jeeps and then pick up a bomb and run back onto the boat and plant the bomb and then get off of the boat before it explodes, right? That's the problem that we're presented. It's not a zombie, it's not a mutation. Though they're involved in the problem, we have these objectives that we need to complete and other tools to complete them, like U-speed or movement speed and things like that. These are the four main problems that we're going to encounter when playing Back 4 Blood. So the question that we need to answer now is, what cards solve what problem? What cards solve what problem? And then once we have that answered, when we're making our deck, the question that we need to ask ourselves then is, what problems do I want to solve with my deck? Right? So let's get into the horde here. What cards counter the horde? Now, in case you guys don't know, when it comes to dealing with the horde and the mutations, it's all about positioning and their opposites and what they're weak and strong against, right? So the horde is strongest out in the open. You're in the middle of a cornfield and there's zombies spawning all around you. Somebody triggered a bird or snitch, right? You get 360 angles of danger all around you. That's when the horde is strongest. The horde is weakest when you're inside of a hallway or a room and the zombies have to be funneled into a doorway. Very, very easy for you to then just point and click. Mutations are the opposite. Out in the open, the mutations are the weakest, because you have all the space in the world to kite and maneuver and dodge stinger shots and flank the tall boy and get weak spot, right? So out in the open, mutations are weakest. In closed, confined spaces, though, mutations tend to be the strongest. Though stingers and hawkers don't really fall into that category because they want to shoot you at range, and if they get funneled into a doorway, they're so weak they get killed, right? But for the most part, mutations are strongest in confined spaces because you have no room to dodge them. You're forced to have to DPS them down before they get on top of you, and that can be hard to do because they have so much health in Nightmare Mode. But beyond that positioning concept, what cards help us deal with the horde and the mutations? The horde is reload speed, right? You have zombies swarming at you or zombies pushing in at the door. You're shooting your gun. Now you have to reload. While you're reloading, that 2-3 seconds is when the zombies get to push in on you, close the distance, and now they're right in front of you. And then you reload, you start shooting, kill, and then you reload again, and then they push in on you. So being able to reload faster means that the zombies have less opportunity, less time to close the gap and get on top of you and start making things happen, start dealing damage. Ammo pouch is part of this. You will see some crossover between like dealing with the horde and attrition. Obviously, are go hand in hand because if you have lots and lots of hordes, you're burning lots and lots of bullets, and then of course attrition starts playing a factor in it. But we're not super worried about the crossover. Just recognize that each have their own problems, and sometimes they cross over. But like ammo pouch, lots of hordes means you need lots of bullets. So having ammo pouch means that you'll be able to deal with, in theory, 25% more zombies in the long run, right? If you're enough bullets to kill 100 zombies, if you have 25% more bullets, does that mean you can kill 25% more zombies? Look, we don't need to get that detailed, but the point is more bullets, more zombies you can kill. Power reload. This is a card that I'm not recommending running anymore. I actually still really like this card. I think this card's really neat and interesting and cool, but I've come to love it less and less and less. But a magazine size. Similar to reload speed, if we need to reload less often, that means that we're killing more zombies more often, which means that they're not pushing in on us. And great. So instead of needing to reload 5 times during a horde event, maybe we only need to reload 4 times or 3 times. And that's 2 or 1 less opportunities that the zombies have to close a gap on you. And then you're going to see grenade pouch and cross trainers, because there are some cards in here that are super flexible. One of them is grenade pouch. If you have trouble with the horde, you can just run grenade pouch and carry an extra pipe bomb. 1 more pipe bomb means 1 more horde event that you can easily deal with, right? So extra pockets, super nice, universal way to deal with everything. And then cross trainers. We have cross trainers for stamina and movement speed, right? That's the primary reason why we have them. And like I said before, when it comes to dealing with mutations and the horde, it's all about positioning. That's the primary way that you're going to beat those problems. So if you're caught out in the open, and you know you don't have the reload speed or the magazine size to 360 no-scope all the zombies for long, you can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to run to a corner. I'm going to run to a room. Having extra stamina or movement speed will allow you to get out of bad positions into a more favorable one once the horde has been triggered, right? So these are the cards, these are the types of cards that we're looking for if we want to solve the problem of dealing with the horde. Mutations. When it comes to mutations, when they're out in the open, you just kite them around. When they're close to you, you need to kill them. Either way, you're shooting at them, you're doing damage. The way to beat mutations with cards is that we need to do a crap ton of damage as quickly as possible. Damage, 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 damage. Damage. Right, so we have things like Hyper Focus. Hyper Focus is a great card for dealing with the Wretch, the Exploder, and all of the Stinger variants. Now, if you have the luxury of getting a flank on the tall boy, then the Hyper Focus becomes a big contributor there as well. Right, Glass Cannon for damage. We have combat training here because of the Stumble. Right, because of the Stumble. A great way to deal with all of the mutations is Stumble. Purple Stumble ammo, probably the best magazine that you can find, sort of in general. No matter what gun you're using, primary wise, right? You don't want stumble damage on your Beretta. That's not going to do anything for you. But stumble damage on an AK or the Scar or whatever, super, super cool. Because it'll allow you to either stumble a Reeker or less, right? It goes, when it comes to stumble damage, it's like all 3 tall boys are tippity top as far as their stumble resistance goes. Then it's the Reeker. Then the Wretch and the Exploder are relatively the same, and then it's all of the Stingers at the very bottom. Stingers being the easiest, Tall Boys being the hardest, Reeker sort of being in the middle, and then Wretch Exploder sort of being less in the middle, more on the weak side. And being able to stumble things is just as good as killing them a lot of the times, because for that second, they're totally neutralized. And when it comes to dealing with mutations in the hard spots, right, in the confined spaces in the rooms, it's all about time. Can we kill this tall boy before he can charge on top of us? Can we kill the bruiser before he walks into the room and starts pounding the ground? It's all about time, right? How much DPS we have, damage per second. Stumble, in a way, is an additional, will buy you more time. Stumble will buy you more time. What would have taken the tall boy 4 seconds to get inside, now it takes the tall boy 6 seconds to get inside, right? So Right now, the only card in the game for stumbling reliably is combat training, or provides directly to stumble. Just so you guys know, just flat damage, whether it's hyper focused or whether it's weak spot damage or just flat damage, all of it helps with your stumble potential. But just keep in the mind in the future that there'll probably be more cards that just do stumble stuff, which is kind of cool. Again, damage, right? Bomb Squad, great way to turn your grenades into a reliable means of blowing up tall boys. Reload drills. This one's a little weird here. Again, it's all about time. So if we have enough time to get a reload done, then that's potentially more DPS than you would have otherwise, right? If a tall boy's charging at you from along the way and you mag dump and then you're able to reload again and mag dump, then that's more DPS before the tall boy can do his DPS, right? Before he can start getting his damages. So if reload drills means that you can get in an extra magazine before the tall boy starts doing damage, then in theory that this can also be a solution to deal with tall boys, but it's not ideal, not amazing, right? And again, grenade pouch, having one more grenade means that we can kill one more tall boy. That's it, right? So if we're saving our grenades for those events where we're like, oh crap, a tall boy's here, we have to kill it or it's going to hit someone, that's when you're going to burn the grenade, and if you have extra grenades, you can do that in extra time. And then cross trainers again, right? Stamina, movement speed. If you're out in the open, it allows you to kite the mutations around much easier. You can hopefully dodge stinger shots more easily, things like that. Outrun, sidestep the hunter that's pouncing on you and things like that. Pockets and stamina, movement speed, very nice universal ways to deal with most things. And here is attrition. And this is essentially just resource generation and resource quality. That's about it, right? Second chance, extra life, extra health, a damage resistance. Our health and our heals are 5% better now. Hazard pay for extra money, fresh bandage, get extra health and trauma heal per mission, safer recovery, extra ammo, extra pockets for grenades and resources, generating those extra resources, right? All those things, all the resource generation cards are going to be your way to deal with attrition over time. Going to allow you to leave the safe room with full pockets and hopefully get to the safe room with maybe full pockets, or be able to refill on the go as you move through the mission. Now, objectives and crescendo events here. We have cross trainers and use speed. Those are the primary two, right? In these events, we need to either do something weird like board up windows or fire a field cannon, hook up crates to a helicopter, right? Things like that, where use speed will come into play where there's a particular objective that we need to interact with, and use speed will be usually a part of that. Again, like if we need to run across the bridge and the crossing, cross trainers, superior cardio, run like hell, things like that, those cards will help us deal with these problems. So these are sort of the objective/movement-based problems that we're going to have. Interestingly enough, though, for some of these crescendo events we're encountering an infinite horde, there is some crossover between attrition and here. Just about everything crosses over with attrition, right? Everything's burning our resources. But if you're on T5 and you have a melee character who's running Vanguard, you can, health-wise, you can almost infinitely sustain yourself on the staircase, right? So long as you can deal with mutations, the Vanguard player will never die. And his teammates will never die. Right? Ammo stash. Maybe you don't have Vanguard. Maybe you're running Highwayman ammo stash, and you're turning the staircase on T5 into a Molotov assembly line, essentially, right? You're burning down zombies with your sidearm, reloading and burning more down, and then, a mutation shows up, let's molly the door, kite it back. Oh, it burns out. Okay, great. Back to the staircase. Start shooting again. Right? Highwayman. Infinite resource generation, right? So when it comes to these crescendo events, some of these cards that allow us to very easily generate resources near infinitely can also be key factors in your success or failure there. Great. So now, what do we do? How do we build a deck now, right? We have 4 card types. We have 4 more identifiable ways to identify or look at our cards, right? We want to build a deck now, right? That's the point of this video. We want to build a deck. Let me look at my notes here and white out my face. Yes, 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 yes. Right, so the point of the deck is to solve problems. We've identified our 4 problems. We've identified the cards that help us deal with those particular problems. The questions now that we need to ask ourselves when we're building a deck is, what problems do we need to solve? But now something else I haven't talked about yet is also context. And if you've watched my earlier videos, I talked all the time about context. Right, so the question we need to ask ourselves for our deck building is, what problems do I want to solve? And what context are we in? And what I mean by context is, what act are we playing? What cleaner do we want to play? What gun do we want to use sometimes, right? Can be a part of the context. But also, are we playing solo queue with bots? With 3 random people? Are we pre-made, right? Are we getting with our friends, working together, communicating, getting a 4-man group together and going out into the zombie apocalypse? That is the context, right? And context will help determine what order we need to put our cards in, as well as what cards we choose to have and leave behind entirely. Yep, exactly. I said it perfectly, according to my notes. Just to reiterate here, when we're building our deck, the questions we need to ask ourselves is, what problems do I want to solve? And what context? What act? What cleaner? Am I playing with randoms or am I playing with friends? And when it comes to playing with friends and randoms, it's really a question of, do I want to be super dedicated to solving only 1 or 2 problems? Or do I want to be more flexible in my problem solving, right? Do I want to have cards in my deck that solve all 4 of these problems, but not nearly as good as if I just dedicated to one of them? Or do I want to have full dedication to one of these problems, right? And then you're in a team setting with your 3 or 4 friends, or who are, we're all working together. Dedication to a problem is much easier than if you're playing with random people, because you can have 3 or 4 people who are all trying to run a sniper rifle. Oops, who's gonna kill the horde? 1 bullet at a time, right? So let's just look at 2 decks here. One is a bad deck and one is a better deck, and the better deck will help example what I mean by context. And I'll leave it up to you guys. Right, so here's a sniper deck. Right, hyper focus, glass cannon, patient hunter, silver bullets, wide mouth magwell, cold brew coffee, reload drills, confident killer, stock pouch, reckless strategy, knowledge is power, wooden slayer, large caliber rounds marked for death, and tunnel vision. What problem does this deck solve? What problem does this deck solve? Right? Like in episodes of Blue's Clues, say it out loud wherever you are. You know it. It kills mutations and bosses. Mutations and bosses, right? This is what this deck does. It solves that problem really well, actually. This deck is gonna shred tall boys. No problem. You're gonna be hitting huge mega shots with this deck. You're obviously running a sniper rifle. We have a little bit of context here to what gun we want to have. But what act do we play this deck in? What act do we play this deck in? We can probably play it in any of them, right? But there's nothing here specifically that would indicate, oh, this is Act 1 or Act 2 or Act 3 or Act 4, right? Because in Act 1 and 2, by your first 5 cards, you are going to be running around a lot. By your first 5 cards is the Crossing or the Handyman in Act 1 or Act 2. Right? Those are the objective / crescendo problems or whatever, right? Does our deck solve any of those problems? Not really. This deck does not do anything for the horde. It does nothing for attrition. It does nothing for the objective-based missions. Basically the finales, right? We're not going to be loading a field cannon. We're not going to be running around a mansion, right? We're going to be killing mutations, and that's it. So again, this deck is not very flexible, and also the cards are not in any particular order. This person just has the biggest numbers earliest, and then he gets some reload speed, and then he gets more big numbers, and That's about it. This person's got tunnel vision, right? Right? You see where I'm getting at here, where there's no indication of who we're playing this with, randoms or teammates, what act we're in. If we try to run this deck in solo queue, I would call this deck greedy, in that we would need our 3 teammates to solve the other problems really well for us. Look at this deck. I personally, I actually would never run this deck. I force myself to make a deck that's going to be more dedicated. I typically play solo queue with random people. That's my thing. That's what I love. I think it's really fun. It's like Nightmare Plus. You meet interesting people on occasion. It can be really, really cool. I've even met some of you guys, which was really, 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 really pleasant. Hope you guys are doing well. But this is a team deck in that, under the assumption that we were playing with 3 teammates that we knew and were going to communicate and felt comfortable talking with, we are the dedicated sniper here, right? We have Share the Wealth, Wide Mouth, Magwell, Hyper Focus, Reload Drills. This is Act 2, so these are our first 4 cards for the mission. And the reason why I have these cards here is I would recommend that if you're going to be a sniper player, go for reload speed first before you get the big damage stuff. Just because, unless you're going to use a burn card to get a sniper rifle, finding a sniper rifle is not a surefire thing. Right? Not a surefire thing. You're looking for that juicy Barrett. But reload speed is sort of universal as far as increasing your DPS, right? So if you find a sniper rifle early, extra reload speed is still going to increase your DPS because you shoot your sniper rifle faster anyways. So your ability to kill a tall boy with your first 2 magazines becomes way more viable, especially if your teammates are helping you do that. We get Hyper Focus because, again, it's universal damage. Hyper Focus is great for dealing with the Stingers, the Stinger variant, as well as the Reeker variant, other than the Reeker itself. And whether we're using the M1A or just an AR or whatever we've chosen to use until we find our sniper rifle, this Hyper Focus will allow us to basically shred and potentially stumble the Stinger variant and the Wretch variant, things like that. Give us the good kill potential versus those mutations, regardless of what gun we have. And so I'm just taking this very flexible approach as far as what gun I'm looking for, right? The context is I need a sniper rifle, but let's not just get stock pouch right out the gate because we may not get the sniper rifle that we want. We may not even be using the sniper rifle because we don't like the M1A. Maybe, though, you do like the M1A. Maybe you put stock pouch earlier because the M1A burns through a lot of ammo as far as snipers go. Right? You can see that there's flexibility here, and there's reasoning. We can always reason ourselves into something, so long as you have a reason, though, right? But now we get into card 5, which is the Handyman. We might say to ourselves, I really don't want to do anything else but kill mutations, but Handyman is a movement-based map. We're also going to have Broken Bird that's movement-based. My team is going to run through the second half of trailer trash because we don't like looting in the trailers. There's no amount of loot that's going to compensate for us taking damage if we do end up taking damage, and there's a horde that comes every, couple minutes in trailer trash. Let's just run through it. So Fleet of Foot will get us value on the Handyman, on trailer trash, on Broken Bird if we need to run, as well as the Clog and things like that. So we might reason to ourselves, let's just take a little step into just a little bit of movement for these movement-based, these objective/movement-based maps. But then we go back into Mark for Death, right? Back into damage. This is team damage, again, universal. It doesn't matter what gun we have. It doesn't matter if we're the only one shooting, or it matters. I don't know what I'm saying. Team damage, right? So in theory, we can look at this card and go, it's plus 40 damage to our sniper rifle, or plus 10 damage to our sniper rifle, plus 30 damage to the team in general. So great damage card, great DPS card, just nice one card, maximum damage. At this point, we really are hoping that we get our sniper rifle. If not, maybe we found a really good M1A or something or whatever, right? But we'll get the stock pouch. And now it's just damage. Silver bullets. Cold Brew Coffee for reload speed, ADS. Cold Brew Coffee is a great card for snipers just in general. All the quality of life, super duper nice. Now we have Grenade Pouch. We don't have double Grenade Pouch because we're avoiding the minus 10% damage. So we can still solve our mutation problem. But Maybe we're taking but now we can maybe take a step in a different direction here. We have so much damage in this deck that running grenades and being like the double down on killing tall boys thing doesn't make much sense. But we're going to be probably pretty weak to the Horde. We're going to be dependent on our teammates dealing with the Horde. Card number 10 is Broken Bird. There's no real like super good place to hold out on Broken Bird. Almost everything is something that the Horde can crawl over or spawn behind you or crawl out of the muck right in front of you, things like that. So dealing with the Horde is going to be the problem there, because Broken Bird is a big open map, not a lot of corners. If we can deal with the Horde, then kiting the mutations around becomes much, much easier. We have Grenade Pouch here now, so that we can carry an extra pipe bomb for the team. Again, we just dipped our toe into solving a different problem now. Extra movement speed here, extra pipe bomb here, right? Like cherries on top sort of thing, right? Now we just get more damage, down in front. The strategy that I've seen a lot of people use and that I've recommended is that you need lots and lots and lots of flashbangs once you get to Grave Danger, which is card 13. You need like 10-ish flashbangs, a lot of flashbangs. You kill the snitches, the breakers show up, right? Breakers move slowly. They're going to be the last people, the last mutations, to the door if you're holding out inside the church. So what you do is you just flashbang the door when mutations show up, and you stall the door out, and you create like a flesh wall of Ridden. You just flashbang, and you flashbang, and eventually the breakers show up at the door. Then you flashbang the breakers. Now both breakers are stunned at the door. Then somebody grenade dumps the door, things like that. Maybe you save the flashbangs. Maybe you have enough damage with this deck in your team that when a tall boy shows up, you just can outright kill him. No need to use the flashbangs until the breakers show up. Breaker number 1 shows up, you flashbang it, blah blah blah, you grenade dump, etc., etc., etc. The church is not a particularly big area. You're sort of all in the back, sort of cramped, right? There's a lot of friendly fire potential here. Not only that, the extra 10 points of health will help us a little bit as far as dealing with like a wretch showing up or a stinger, like getting a quick shot off, because they'll pop up around the corner and then they'll spew, and maybe you kill it just in time, but you take a little bit of damage. So again, down in front is just going to allow us to entrench ourselves more comfortably in the back of the church. Sort of an objective, sort of base concept here. Going to help us with the attrition of having enough health to deal with that map. As well as if a breaker gets inside the church and somebody's grenade dumping, you don't want that person to blow you up. Extra damage if we seem to be not have enough damage, and extra health if we can't seem to comfortably entrench ourselves in the church, right? So here is the deck, right? And this is basically my thought process here. What problems do we want to solve? And what is the context? That's the two major things here, right? Two major things here. The horde, the mutations, the attrition, the objectives. That's the problem, right? Let me say the words recap. The recap is beginning for those of you who've hit the recap timey button in the YouTubes, right? When it comes to deck building, we need to answer two questions. What problems do we want to solve? And what is the context that our deck is going to be played in? The problems are the horde, mutations and bosses, attrition, and objectives and crescendo events. Infinite hordes, use speed, and running around. Right, so when we're making our deck, what problems do we want to solve? We'll put in cards that obviously solve the problem that we desire to solve. Reload speed or ammo capacity for the horde, damage or extra grenades or grenade damage to deal with mutations and bosses, resource generation like extra money, highwayman to generate ammo and molotovs, and vanguard to generate health and things like that, right? To deal with attrition as the game whittles away, that's the word, whittles away at our stuff, at our loot. And then we need use speed, movement speed, and again, sort of infinite resource generation for these maps that have infinite hordes and objectives that we need to complete. Right? So what problems do we want to solve? These are the problems. Pick some and put them in your deck, and then all of a sudden you've solved those problems. Context, though, is the more more interesting thing here as far as context will determine. Context is what act are we playing? What cleaner do we want to play as? Are we playing with random people or with a pre-made group of friends? Those are the three things of context. We'd even go as far as like what gun do we want to use, right? Like we want to use a sniper rifle, so we'll get the stock pouch card, right? That's context, right? That's circumstantial, right? So when we are organizing our cards, we think, oh, for Act 2, card 5 is a movement card because card 5 is the handyman. So let's be able to move and groove a little bit easier on handyman because we need to get to a holdout point every 2 minutes because the horde shows up. So having extra movement will help us do that so we're not caught out in the open. Right, that's context based off of Act 2. We put cards in the order that makes sense to deal with the problems of the mission that we're going to encounter. This deck is super dedicated to just doing lots and lots of damage with a sniper rifle. If we were running this deck with random people, this would be a harder deck to run because we don't know what our random teammates are going to do, and if the horde shows up and our teammates can't deal with the horde viably, we're going to have problems dealing with the horde also because our deck doesn't really deal with that, right? That's context. But that's sort of the whole point of this video. I hope this helps you guys understand things. If you still have questions or concerns or problems or ideas, please feel free to drop the comment, ask questions, let me know. I love answering the comments and things like that. But that's the recap. It's just when we're building a deck, what problems do we want to solve, and what is the context? And part of that context too is, do we want to be dedicated? Do we want to be dedicated to solving one problem, or be kind of good at everything, right? Because we can have a couple of movement speeds, some reload. You know, we can have a bomb squad, and right in terms of like, we can run an SMG or an AR with extra reload speed, like in the zone. And now our AR/SMG, that's our ability to deal with the horde. Then we run extra pouches for grenades. Right, we have double grenade pouch, and then bomb squad. So now our gun deals with the horde, our throwables deal with mutations. We're more flexible, right? That's our, you know, we've answered that part of context. We can play this deck comfortably in both a team setting or with random people and things like that. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, if this helps, if this makes more sense than what I had before. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the future.